Hello, everyone, and welcome to the paddock. My name is Henrik.
And my name is Sierra, and we will be going over the last two races, basically the end of the season, for both F1 Academy, F2, and F1. This episode will be, of course, F1 Academy and F2. This is also recorded well after the season has ended, so we do
Mm,
also have drivers announced for next year, drivers moving next year.
yep,
So it's kind of just an overview of like the ending of the season, to say the least.
and as we all know, we have some new drivers on the grid. So we have Tino
Mhm.
Beganovic, we have Luke Browning, just new-ish, Christian Mansell, new-ish also. We have all of these, yeah, Leonardo Fornaroli, reigning F3 champion, of course, and yeah.
Yeah, we'll go over it, but this first episode will be to recap the F1 Academy and F2 last two races, including also any seats that are being moved. So let's start. First off, how did you enjoy the last did you watch the last two races? Did you enjoy the races?
Yeah, I enjoyed the F2 races, but the F1 Academy ones not so much.
I mean, I guess the third race that happened over in Abu Dhabi was really good. It
Mm.
was pretty predictable, as we stated, just because pulling was so far ahead. But going into Qatar, it was still up in the air for who could win. It was still very much in Abby's favor to win, but
Mhm.
Dorian did have a chance to win. Of course, in Qatar, we did only have one race because there was an accident in Porsche, so the second race was canceled, and that caused a lot of delays and everything like that. Even in the qualifying, it was delayed. So Qatar is better for MotoGP than
Yes,
I would say this form of racing.
yes, I would absolutely agree, and it was built with that purpose in mind. So,
I mean, if they can go in and maybe extend, like widen some of the corners, widen some of the other, it gives good racing in a sense. Like, especially in the like, especially like if you look at F2.
which had their series debut there. Same goes
Hmm.
for F1 Academy. So,
And I don't think it was terrible. Like, it wasn't,
no,
they worked good, but with the F1 cars as they are, I don't see, I mean, I see how they continue doing this because money and everything else, but in terms of racing quality,
mm.
eh.
Yeah, well, yeah, for F1 Academy anyway. I think they could benefit from, say, a Paul Ricard or Algarve or any of those tracks, really. Possibly also Monaco. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see what happens. We all know that this lovely race will be on the calendar for still a while, and
Yeah, for another 10 or so years. So we'll see.
I even see it being extended once it's close enough, but it is what it is.
Of course, we have contract extensions for other
Yeah.
tracks as well.
But also with the one race being canceled, and we didn't know if it was going to be reinstated, it was announced that Abby Pulling did win the F1 Academy Championship in Qatar, and
Yes.
then midway through the week they announced they're reinstating the one race in Abu Dhabi, so then she wasn't the championship, so it's a little like it did give this weird like she won, but then they're reinstating because they want to make sure they have all the races.
She won, but she didn't really, and that was
And it
confusing.
was, yeah, and then it's like, well, because it wasn't out of it was still possible for Dorian Penn to win if she won if she got pole on all the races, if she won every race and pulling didn't
Hmm.
score high or score. So it would have been, if that would have happened, of course it didn't, but if that would have happened, that, I mean, it's racing and it happens, but you can't, I understand they want to get it in, but you can't, that would be completely unfair.
Yep.
That would be like the F3 championship where Minnie got a penalty, but if he would have won, and then like that would have been even worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, or the Alonso trouble in Saudi Arabia in 2023.
Yeah, so it
That
was just
even so, yeah.
it would have left a bad taste in my mouth. Again, that
Mm.
didn't happen. Abby did get pole for for all three races in Abu Dhabi. She ended the season on the podium in every race that she did. She did not win every race, but she did podium in every race, which is insane. She will be going to GP3 next season. I forget exactly with which team she'll be with, but she is
Rodin.
going there. Roden, okay. Other things we made note, we had Maya Woog winning her first race in the third and final race of the season.
Mm.
The only time we heard the Dutch national anthem this
That
weekend,
weekend. Mm.
but very excited, very happy for her to finally get her win, especially because she was up there for the most part.
Well, let's face it, she is a great driver. So, yeah.
No, I agree. She's a very good driver. And the fact that this is her first win is, I think it tells you the competition that there was this year. I
Mm.
don't remember if this is her first year in the academy, if this is her second year.
It was the first year, as far as I'm aware of.
Okay, so she should, especially since it looks with Dorian, she will be in the academy next season, so it should be very interesting to see the dynamics. Of course, you'll also have Chloe Chambers in there next year, but also
Which is
another,
also switching programs, mind you.
yes, I know, but Chloe Chambers will stay there. Dorian will stay with Mercedes. Another big note is that Tina Hausman for Prema also finished her highest this season with a fourth. That helped Prema take the constructors for F1 Academy. So they became back-to-back constructor winners. Just going over some final standings, you had pulling in first with 338 points, Dorian Penn with 217, Maya with 177, Marty with 136, Alcabazi with 133, Chambers with 122, Bustamante with 73, Leah Block with 44, Schreiniger, I'm gonna assume that's
Schreiner.
right. Schreiner with 35 with 34, and then Tina Hausman with 31 finishes out your top 10.
Right. That and thus concludes F1 Academy, I believe.
I mean, you have some other mean notes in terms of like driver changes, drivers who you're staying. As we said, Dorian Penn will race next season in the 2025 F1 Academy seed team. She will be with Mercedes. We have Leah Block staying with Williams. You have a couple new faces. You have Emma Felberman. I'm gonna say that's how you say your last name. She will be with Kicks Academy. She will be with the Rodin team. The new Red Bull Racing driver joining the grid will be Alicia Palmowski. She'll be with Campos. And then also may note that for the 2025 season, there will be 18 cars on the grid
Mm.
instead of
16.
the 16. So two more drivers will be added. And then the other one is Alpine did get another driver. That will be Nina Gaidman. That is all the news.
And the team in question is high tech. They will be the
The third,
17th and
okay,
18 car, so yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, especially, the new team principal for Alpine owns
Yeah, and the
high tech, so
tie-in with high tech from before.
yeah.
Of course, on that, yeah, it was a good signing on his part
hmm
with Alpine.
So we'll move over to F2, where we did get our deciders
Yes.
in the race. Of course, going into Qatar, it was still very close, but we did have some driver changes happening going into Qatar. It was Zane Maloney's last race in
Hmm.
F2, but you also had Dino Beganovic taking over for Correa in the dams.
Yes.
You had Vishor moving back to MP, so becoming teammates with Ollie Gerther. You had John Bennett joining in Vans Amsterdam for the last two races. You
Oh,
had Max
Esterson.
Esterson, thank you, joining with Trident for the last two races. You had Shields joining in IX Racing. And then in the last race, you did have Fornaroli taking over for Maloney.
That's for Invicta.
So, how did you like the guitar race? I
Uh,
was guitar races, I should say.
yeah,
There were two. We did
I
have
know.
both.
I know. I know. I think the feature was quite nice.
you did have the different dynamics because you had Hajar going on the mediums, whereas most of the other I forget the other driver who went on the mediums, but the main one in the lead was Hajar on mediums, and then you had Ollie chasing him down on the hards. Of
Mm,
course, the mediums were not the correct choice. I personally liked Qatar weekend.
mm.
For F2, it gave, I think the size of the cars for F2 really work with the track in Qatar. And I will make note that Max looked good in qualifying, but in the race it just didn't work out for him.
He
But
got DNF, didn't he?
I believe so. But something I do want to make note is that Bogdanovich, throughout the last four races of the season, jumping in a car that he didn't know with a team that he doesn't know, and in my opinion, even though he didn't score points in the first sprint, was on track to score points in every race that he was in. Of course, in this last sprint in Abu Dhabi, he did get a podium. Of course, that was due to high tech being stupid, in my opinion, is how I'll state it. But for him to be able to score points very
Mm.
quickly, be able to qualify in the top five each time. Of course, he'll be with high tech next year. He won't be with Dams this next year.
No.
But I think of the rookies that we saw join the grid for more than one race, I'll say, because you had Browning joining, you had Ollie Gothard joining, you had
Fornaroli.
for more than one races, so Mansell's the other one.
Browning also, wasn't he for
I,
more than
I,
one race?
yeah, I said Browning. I
Ah,
said
yeah, you did. Okay.
it was Browning, Gother, and Mansell were the three who joined prior. But out of the ones that had more than one race in an F2 car, I mean we still have to see the full season, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm very excited to see Dino perform.
He is a very good driver, and people are seemingly aware of it.
Ferrari knows how to pick their academy well.
Absolutely, they have Maya Vug, they have Dino Beganovic, they had Ollie
Ollie Behrman,
Behrman. Yeah. Who else do
um,
they have? They have
some in F3 that I cannot think of right
Pekka
now.
Topponen. He was the Fremic champion of 2024, so they know how
Uh,
to pick drivers, all right?
they do know how to pick drivers, and they aren't Red Bull when it comes to their driver development issues. But going into the last race of the season, we did have only zero point 0.5 points separating Hajar and Bortoleto. So it was supposed to be a good final race. Of course, you also had Aaron finally getting his first win. I will say it was also now if Bortoleto did not get a penalty, it would have been Bortoleto's win, but of course he did have the pit line infringement causing him to get 5 seconds. So it was more him racing against Hajar in in that last couple laps.
And him racing against the penalty, I would think.
Yeah, and Hajar did get within that 5 seconds, so it was Aaron first, Hajar second, and Bortoleto third, which is how we got the point 0.5 going into the last race of the season.
Fast forward to the Qatar Abu Dhabi feature, and Hajar DNFs.
In DNF, he stalled and basically
Stalling turn DNF.
he finished the race. He was 2 laps down though, so it was like I will say the commentary was even confused by it and they thought it was Pepe, which to be fair, Pepe had been having a horrible season, so a lot it would not have surprised me. And then we realized it was Hajar and we were like, "Oh, well, this is over."
Championship over.
But Hajar did, or not Hajar, Pepe did get a win this season. He did get a win in the sprint. The reason Bogdanovich got the third place in the sprint is because High Tech, according to what they're saying, High Tech put an illegal wing on the Aaron's car, and High Tech knew about it, which is why he was one disqualified from the sprint, but then also had to start from pit lane in the feature race. I think if High Tech wasn't stupid and put a regular wing on it, I don't know if he would have been as fast as they were, but I think he might have been able to get second.
Considering that he got into the points, I think that was a very good thing for him.
But yeah, so I personally enjoyed the last couple of races. The last race was a lot more. The last race definitely left a sour note in my mouth because as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Isaac Hadjar, seeing the way that his championship ended,
It was very anticlimactic.
yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of his radio messages, but like hearing him on the radio and being like, "Can you just tell me what the pace was?" just to see if he would have been able to, put up a fight for it. It's not how you want to end a championship run. Of course, other main news is that Antonelli did not participate in either of the Abu Dhabi races due to an illness. He
Yes.
was well enough to do the end of season testing for Mercedes, but so Prema only had the one car running in Abu Dhabi.
And if you don't know this, you can't have a reserve unless they have driven one practice session. So,
hmm So that was the other main note.
yep.
But you did have, with Bortoleto winning, you did have Invicta Game Racing also taking the team's title in the constructors. So I don't know if this is their first one, but it's definitely it was not a repeat winner in Prema, but I think we already knew that from the beginning of the season.
Yep. Prema have had a so and so season, I think. I
They
don't
still
really.
finished in the top five. They
Yeah.
still they were fifth in in the team standings. It was Invicta, and then it was Campos, and then MP, High Tech, Prema, Dams, ART, Rodin, AIX, Trident, and then Van Amsterdam. In the top standings for the top 10 drivers, it was Bortoleto, Hadjar, Aaron, Maloney, Crawford, Antonelli, Martins, Vishore, Colapinto stayed in the top 10, mind you, even though he wasn't on the grid for the last six races, and Dirksen.
And seeing Dirksen win the Abu Dhabi feature was special.
Yes, it was very excited to see him continue next year. He will stay on the grid with AIX, so good to
Yes.
see him continuing on the grid.
When did he get his first win in the series? Was it Austria?
Uh, I think so. He's won a sprint. He won his first win was the sprint in Baku, and then this is his
Well,
first feature
yeah.
win.
Well, Austria, Baku, those are surprisingly similar.
In other news, in terms of who is joining the grid, who is leaving the grid, you have, of course, in the main news for F1, but Hadjar will be going up to the V-Carb team, although they're not called V-Carb anymore, but I'm going to call them V-Carb for right now because it's not 2025 yet.
Are they changing names?
It's not, it's Racing Bulls, I think now. I think it's like Visa Racing Bulls. I think that's the actual name that they're changing to.
So not okay, so not V-carb anymore. Okay.
Yes. But so you have Hadger going up. Of course, I don't remember if Bortoletto was announced the last time we recorded, but Bortoletto will be going into the kick seat. He will be with
Yeah, he
Hulkenberg.
was announced the last time we spoke
Well,
about
we're
it. Yeah.
restating it. So we have two graduates from, well, four graduates from this class.
Yeah, we have
Uh,
Jack Doohan, Behrman,
I'm saying
Bortoleto,
who,
and Hadjar. Yeah.
well, Doohan was a reserve driver.
Yeah, but still
Of
a graduate, if you consider it like that.
I'm saying who drove this year. So you have Behrman, Antonelli, Hadjar, and Bordello all going up to the F1 seats. You also, again, we have Doohan joining the grid, also in F1, going into that second Alpine seat. But in terms of who is moving up to F2, you have John Bennett going to Van Amsterdam, Amsterfort. As we stated, Joshua Dirksen will stay with AX
AIX.
AIX. Marty will continue with Campos, so he will be next to Lindblad. Will he have a better shot next year, or will Lindblad outdrive him?
Yeah, I think Lindblad will mop the floor with him. I don't know if.
I don't know. Prema also has a completely new lineup. Of course, they are losing both of their drivers, but they will have Mini, which I think we all knew, and then Montoya will
Yes.
be his teammate. Am I
And
upset that it's not Bogdanovich? Absolutely. And
and that goes through for me as well. I want that to be Bogdanovich, but no!
but I
Montoya gets
mean,
the
if
seat. Eh.
it, but if high tech is going to be better than Prema, all for it. As we
Mm.
said, Bogdanovich will be going to high tech. He will have Luke Browning as his teammate.
Not a bad pairing, seemingly.
I think Bogdanovich will do better than Browning.
Yeah, could be because he has a little bit more experience.
Well, I mean, if you look at what Browning did in F2 after he was promoted to what Bogdanovich did in two races, he looked more comfortable in his car.
Well, we always speak of being one with the car, so I
And
think that
again,
was what he could do.
yeah, and even if you look at the after season testing, I mean, I know Browning did the Williams testing, but Bogdanovich was up there for the most part in the testing for F2. Continuing
And
on,
Dirksen also was quite good.
yeah,
Mm.
Martins was good as well. You also had Crawford looking really good. I think Crawford is somebody to look out for next year because he will
Mm.
be staying with the Dams racing team. You have him getting Miney as a new teammate.
Well,
To be,
Miney isn't new. Miney is just switching teams.
yeah, well, still a new teammate compared to because he's not going to be with Bogdanovich. He's not going to be with Correa. I will say it was a little confusing at first because I was like, wait, I thought Bogdanovich was there, but it was just for the last two races that he was with Dams. You have Mayata moving over to ART. You have Megatunif joining Trident, as we all knew. And then we see the return of Stanek to Invicta.
Uh,
I
how on earth did that happen? I don't know.
who actually knows? He got
Who in their right mind would sign that man to a team like Invicta? I don't. Ugh.
it is what it is. We'll see how it goes.
I'm
But
so confused.
I mean, he didn't do terribly, but he's going to now the reigning F2 constructors. Of course, Stanek, he finished 22nd. He had 14 points to his name. He did win the sprint in Australia.
Mm.
He got points in Monaco. He also got a point in the sprint in Silverstone. Of course, again, he did not score points in any of the feature races, but he has the same amount of points as Ollie Gurther, who
About halfway
joined
through.
on his last race. So that would have been Monza.
Yeah, about halfway through or so then.
There were three races left. Well, four races if we include Monza.
Austria was the halfway point.
Yeah. So, I mean, it will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the Danek Invicta pairing if that works out. He's slowly but surely turning into this Ralph Buschong-esque character in my book.
If we're looking at the top 10, you have the top four not coming back because you have Borla going into F1, you have Hadjar going to F1. It's not announced if Paul Aaron will be on the grid, but he is the reserve driver for
Yes.
Alpine. So he is not there. Maloney is going to F Formula E. So in the top five, it's Crawford, possible for him to be one of the favorites looking in. I think Martins will still be on the grid, so definitely look for him. I am pretty sure Vishor will be on the grid, so look at him. But you have Dirksen, you have
Well,
Pepe
sure
Mark.
was announced already, so. Well, I can say something that made me very sad.
What was that?
Alex Jakes quitting F2 commentary.
He's not quitting, he retired. We wish Alex all the best. I'm hoping he just became. I mean, he was doing F2 and F1, so that is a very big.
Did he retire from commentary altogether?
No, I think he just retired from doing F2.
Still sad though.
It is sad. I mean, he has been the voice of F2 for everyone. He wasn't,
Mm.
of course, he is the voice for F2, for Formula One on F1 TV. I'm just hoping that this doesn't mean he's going to the other broadcasts, but if he replaced Crofty, I won't mind because I will actually watch them.
Well, who knows?
So, with that, that does conclude our F2 and F1 Academy news slash overhaul for the last two races this season. What are your early predictions for next year for at least F2? F3, F1
Uh,
Academy, we're still.
uh, okay, so let's do F1 Academy then.
Well, I don't know who's gonna all be in F1 Academy, so that's why I'm like, we'll just do F2 for right now.
Okay, yeah. F2, I think. I don't think Prema will be the team's champions. I think High Tech will be that.
I'm not sure on Luke, but we'll
Yeah,
go with
well,
it.
High Tech will be the team's champions, and I think probably Forneroli as the driver champion.
I don't think Fornaroli is as good at Bortoletto though.
Yeah, but he could he could still get a good car.
I mean, he's also going into Victor. I think the ones I'm looking out for are definitely Crawford. I think if Martin stays, Martin's, Vishore. I'll throw Bogdanovich in there and I'll throw Fornaroli. A
Again,
good,
but a mixed bag.
yeah, three who are still on the grid, two who are joining. I think Mini could all, depending on how the Prema card does, I think Mini will definitely be also in there to watch just because he was second in the championship. So definitely look out for him. But
Hmm.
I would also say maybe look at Lindblad. I know we haven't seen him. I know he was at the testing, but we haven't seen a lot of him. But he definitely, I think he could do what Hadjar did,
Right.
but actually stay composed.
He doesn't strike me as this very angry person, so I think, yeah, I think that sounds about right.
But again, these are very early, but that is F1 Academy and F2 in the books for the 2024 season.
And of course, we have to wish Alex Jakes the best of luck.
Yes,
Um,
Alex, we very much enjoyed listening to you in
yes,
F2. Still have you for F1 and we'll be enjoying that, but will definitely be a little weird next year.
yes, the safety will be gone to some extent.
So, looking forward to it, but also,
It's with a bittersweet taste that we have to say this.
yep, almost like a bittersweet taste for the drivers we're losing in F1. Some of them. But thanks for listening, guys, or watching. We will see you probably next year.
Yeah, so in around Australia time, so March, I think.
Well, depend. We'll probably be on to go over after preseason or even for like liveries. So
Yeah, we'll probably be
February,
on at some point during the off season. So
February, March. When lineups are fully announced. Like we
testing
already know,
times, drive to survive times.
Lord, like that. But thanks for listening, guys, and be sure to look for our F1 coverage of the last two races.
Of course, look for the socials and feel free to argue with us and yourselves and everything. We'll see you next season.
Bye, guys.
Bye.